This should be played at high volume.
No need to look back, and I wouldn't if I could. Tears I can't hold back, no. I finally know that because of you, I witnessed prayers come true.
You know, I never really had a time to do this for Nomadic Opinions the first time around, so let's do it this time for seasons 2 going into the third and final season. Hello, my opinionated people out there, and welcome to a brand new installment of Nomadic Opinions, a show where we all sit down, contemplate, pontificate, and then share those thoughts together. So a lot of people have issues with Squid Game Season 2. But really, why? Is that the writing wasn't up to par with what they were expecting after Season 1? Was it because of the controversial casting? Was it because of basically feeling like an unfinished prologue into the finale of things? Let's actually discuss that and get to the nitty-gritty about why people really did have a problem. Firstly, let's dive into just what the expectations were. We have brilliance that comes from how Season 1 concludes, where Gi-hun wants to leave South Korea to be with his daughter in North America. She's doing brilliantly, she's doing very nicely for herself, and various other things that not many individuals get to really talk about for the progression for his character from Season 1, going from happy-go-lucky guy that just happens to be right when the matter gets to him in the crux of when the story tells him, to then just becoming a more well-rounded, more empathetic, and a lot more of a deeper thought individual for what was going on in his world. In that whole stretch, everyone kind of thought it was a cop-out that he did not get on the plane to leave South Korea to be with his daughter so that he could track down the recruiter, go back, and stop every single person that is organizing these games. For it, we then jump from 3 years in the past to 3 years in the present. Well, 2.5 years, going on 3. So potentially 2 games have already started up and completed, to where there have been 2 other Squid Game champions aside from Gi-hun. Whether or not that actually did happen is kind of vague, and honestly, who really cares? It's not a big deal, now is it, folks? So now let's get into just what was the expectations? Were people just hoping he would go to North America and find an American Squid Game? I don't think that serves the exact purpose behind why the show is a deep-rooted success if we're just gonna tailor-make to something that is Netflixified. Almost said the wrong word there, I'm so sorry. So, was the expectations that he was just gonna abandon and we get a brand new protagonist to take up the charge? A la Battle Royale 2, the movie? That seems like a stretch because this is not their fight, this is Gi-hun's fight. If we were to do that, we'd have to create 2 new champions, and then they have to find Gi-hun, and that's a big setup of things that would take way too long to justify, to then have them get back in the games, because by then, the whole paradigm shift in everything has been restructured, and it's going to be more problematic. So, the best way to do it would just be the tale of revenge, of a scorned person that has seen what ugliness dwells from within a darker side of the world and wants to shed light onto it. It's a beautiful juxtaposition from someone that wants to go through life with blinders and trying to have tunnel vision, and someone that sees it from the overall scope, to then make it seem that not only for us, the audience, but the characters in universe notice the growth, notice the actual shift from a lowly worm to a fully realized being. That's more compelling for anything that you could think of, narratively speaking, and I don't see where the problem comes from there. So, was it the casting? If you guys do not know about the casting problems, it's referring to the actor that played the boat captain that we see throughout Season 2, which will be returning in Season 3. And it's also about Thanos, aka Top from Big Bang, and a few other people that have various other problematic things in their histories as entertainers that I could go into, but that's not my bag. We have other videos that want to just throw dirt on these people's names. So, let's actually talk about it. Was the captain a bad person for the role? Well, it's more on the lines that he himself was just typically playing villains, so He's used to just playing detestable characters, which makes it seem like he's a bad person. Unlike stuff in America, it's not that people that are playing villains are villains, they're actually good people. But we don't have that in places like Korea, for example. If you're playing a lot of villain-type roles, certain people will think that you're just that character. So it's not really justified in that regard, in my opinion. What about Top playing Thanos? A character with no script, but just was completely improvised to make a compelling character because of his own history, where people wanted to disparage him because of various things behind the scenes that have nothing to really do with us or the populace at large. Can we really say that Thanos was a bad character in this iteration? Purple ass thumb from Marvel and the MCU films. You could do a whole big video on that shit. But a guy that used to be in a K-pop group that just did little weed is now a bad person for playing a character where he's taking ownership of the controversy to make a character all his own with the directors, the script writers, and everything else in between to make something that we can be attached to? Is that a problem? Is that really an issue? Or are we just becoming more of a parasocial-based society to where we have to find fault in everything that has nothing to do with us? Seems to me that there are more reasons to not hate the show than there are to hate the show. Now, if we were actually talking about the guy that was the original 001 and his whole controversial stuff that recently came into the foreground, now that is a problem that we are glad got remedied. We are not doing that again. Let us move forward. So, is the way that the pacing was done for season 2 an issue? Was it something that really made everybody want to keel over, groan, and be upset about? Why was that an issue? We've had shows that have done this before where they split up the last season of a thing into 2 parts, the same way that we've done with movies. Ever since people thought that it would be good for marketing and for profitable margins. So where's the issue? Did we get something where we didn't feel that fulfillment in why it was a cliffhanger? Did we receive things that kind of felt like it was lackluster where we don't want to have more questions answered? Was it stuff that made everybody feel upset? Except for the last part, I would say no. But the fact that it's an issue for many people means that it was an issue for many people. Not for good reasons or bad reasons. It was just bad because it made people feel bad. It made people feel like they didn't have the same show that they knew back in the day because it wasn't their show. It wasn't the show that people wanted to clamor to for their own reasons. It was a brand new vibe altogether where nobody felt like they knew anything and they lost control over the plot itself. And that doesn't really sit right with me about it feeling like something that is an issue. It's not a problem if a show changes, if it evolves, if the characters develop. That's not Netflixing a show if the characters are evolving with the narrative. It's an issue when the populace wants to insert their own expectations in an unhealthy manner. This is not an issue of a show that has betrayed the audience. It's an issue where the audience betrayed its own show. Everybody wants this picture-perfect narrative, this picture-perfect world of what their show should be. It has dictated many a different IPs, many a different productions overall. But has that done any good when the audience wants to dictate what a vision should be rather than seeing what the full vision can be? As a director myself, I gotta say, no. Not a lot of times. Sometimes the input is great when it's for healthy reasons, but if it's for just, I'm gonna complain on the internet until you do what I say motif, that's not a good reason. That's throwing a tantrum because you couldn't get your favorite toy. I don't do that. But that's just my overall thoughts just right now with Squid Game Season 2. I'm going to be doing a full series review when the whole thing is done for Nomadic Reviews, so make sure you come back for when I do that, probably near the end of 2025. Regardless, this is still a IP I've been keeping a close eye on and I do take mental notes for, so this will be a bigger review when the time comes. But until then, you can either agree with my opinion, you can probably hate my opinion. You could choose to disregard what I'm saying as just this veiled fantasy, or we could sit down and have a genuine conversation about what was talked about today. We can make sure we shake hands at the end, we can spit in each other's faces, but we have to do it respectfully, because this is my opinion, but I'm choosing to share it and respect yours. Have a good one, everybody. Take care, and be good people. Bye.